Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Do please like and subscribe. Leave your comments below. Just straightforward. Any requests you've got, I'll go for it. Somebody requested a song by Johnny Cash, which I'll sing at the end. And before I do, I will warn you all with my song dinger. So when you hear this sound repeatedly at the end, it's time to either shut down or stand by for action. I'm going to talk today about corruption at Wormwood Scrubs when I was there. It's a strange story, and I know people may not actually fully accept that this could possibly happen. I find it difficult to believe. But it started with me having dealings with the head of security for Wormwood Scrubs. I thought he wasn't fit to shovel shit from one bag to another. And so I was having no dealings with him, if I could possibly avoid it, because I thought he was a dimbo. And they put me one night in charge of the hostel outside the gates at Wormwood Scrubs, which is where long-term inmates went for the last 12 months, 6 months of their sentence to be rehabilitated into society. So I was in charge of the hostel, about 20 inmates in there, you know. So I was in charge of this hostel, and by the way, this story is told in my first book, HMP Manchester Prison Officer. There's a link down below. So I was in charge, and it was a Saturday night actually, and it got to be about 10 o'clock. Now, inmates were due to report in to the hostel by 10 p.m. If they didn't, then it was up to me to take action. So it got to be about 10:15. There was one inmate missing. One inmate had failed to register. I mean, I kept a register of everybody that was in the building and an incident book. And at 10:15, I noticed this inmate wasn't there, and I was waiting to book him in. So I thought I'll give him another 5 or 10 minutes before I actually report this, because if they don't arrive in by a certain time, then you report it, and he's put out as absconding. So it got to be about 10:20, and this inmate arrived, and he was rolling drunk, absolutely staggering drunk. And I said to him, listen, I'll book you in. I've not reported this, but I am going to write it in the incident book. But as nobody ever reads the incident book, there will be no repercussions. You're a good 'un, boss. I said, that's all right. Just as long as you're in, I don't have to report you as absconding. Sit down. I said, would you like a cup of tea? I could see he was extremely drunk. So he said, I'd like a cup of tea. Give us a cup of tea. He said, I've been boozing all. And then he went in whilst I made him this cup of tea. And I remember he had 2 sugars. Yeah, seriously. Strange, isn't it? What you remember. Anyway, so he sat down at the table with me. I was having a cup of tea as well. And I said, you had a good day? What a bleeding day I've had, he said. You've never seen anything like it. And he went into this story about how he'd been in this shop in central London and tied up the manager and his staff in the back room and then robbed the place. Oh, I said, have you really? He said, well, a day it was. He says, we tied them to the chair and showed them our warrant cards and, I said, that sounds like you had some fun. I thought he was out of his head, actually. I thought he was deluded, because he was at the end of, I think it was a 10-year sentence or 8-year sentence for armed robbery. I thought that's just basically a flashback that he's had, and he's obviously drunk. So I let him drink his tea. I said, go and have a good night's sleep now. Thank you, boss. See you in the morning. So I said, I don't think so. I'll be leaving at 7 o'clock. So anyway, I never thought no more about it. I continued the shift until the morning, and as I was walking home from Wormwood Scrubs, which is on Duquesne Road, by the way, Google Maps, check it, Duquesne Road, D-U, another word, Cane, C-A-N-E Road, yeah, Wormwood Scrubs is on there. Yeah, so I'm walking back to where I was staying with my wife, and we had an apartment, well, a masonette actually, in East Acton. As I'm walking back, I passed a newspaper shop. I thought, well, I'll get myself a newspaper. So I just picked the first one up that I saw. It was the Sunday Mirror. It's a bit of a rag, innit? So anyway, I got this, and when I got home, I read it, and the front page story was, you can check this out, armed robbery in the West End. Yeah? And it was about a shop in London called Jean Junction. Jean, Jean Junction. Obviously they sold jeans, you know. And it said how they'd been robbed, how the robbers impersonated police officers, took the staff into the back office and tied them to chairs, and then robbed them and abused them, etc. So I thought, hang on, that is exactly the story that particular inmate told me when he came back into the hostel late at night last night. And at the bottom of the story it said, all information call West End Central CID, and it gave a telephone number. Now, I had no faith, absolutely, I told you at the start of this, in the securities. The principal officer in charge of security for Wormwood Scrubs was, in my opinion, a first-rate numpty. So I thought there's no point in me telling him, because either he's going to cover it up or just ignore it and say I'm a lunatic, yeah? So I didn't do that. I had something to eat it with my wife, and then I got changed into civilian clothes. We didn't have a telephone in the place, and I went out to a call box and rang West End Central CID. So they I went through the story with them, what I'd heard in the hostel at Wormwood Scrubs, and they said, all right, just a minute. And then they put another officer on, and they went through the same story again, and they said, right, where do you live? And I gave them the address, you know, Bromyard Avenue it was. That's still there in East Acton, have a look. They've pulled down the masonettes now and replaced them with posh flats. Anyway, so I went back to them and they said, we're going to come and see you. About half an hour later, it wasn't take long, two policemen turned up at the house, came in, sat down, and he said, tell us again. So I told them again exactly what had happened. Now, this guy had come in late, drunk, and I gave him a cup of tea, 2 sugars, and he told me this story in his drunkenness about how he'd tied these people up in the back of a shop and abused them and robbed them and showed them fake police ID cards. And he said, right, okay. So we're going to ask you to come with us now to West End Central Station. It was at Ealing. We went to Ealing Station, police station. So this guy came out. He was a chief inspector, and it was the flying squad, the Sweeney. Seriously. Anyway, he came out, chief inspector, said, please sit down, Mr. Sutton. He said, I want you to tell me. I'd already told the bloody story 5 times, so I told him the same story. He said, right. I said, I believe that the hostel at Wormwood Scrubs is being used as a base for armed robberies. He said, and I want you to phone up the governor and arrange for us to search the premises. I said, do you really? Hey, I said, do you think the governor's going to listen to me? I said, I certainly will. So anyway, I got on the phone, I rang the prison. At first they were rather reluctant, said, you can't just ring the governor like that. I said, this is extremely important. I am with the police and I need to speak to the governor. So eventually I got through to the governor, whose name was Norman Honey. And I said, I'm with West End Central CID at Ealing Police Station, and they have reason to believe that the hostel is being used as a base for armed robberies, and we need your authority to come and search the premises. He said, I don't believe you. I said, very well. I will hand you over to Chief Inspector such and such a body. So I handed him the phone, this Chief Inspector, who was standing next to me, and he told him exactly what the score was, and he said, I still don't believe it. So he said, well, get your security department to contact West End Central CID at Ealing Police Station. He said, and you will be put through to me. I am Chief Inspector such and such a body. So it took half an hour before the phone rang, and this Chief Inspector answered it. They said, right, we're on our way. I don't know what they said to him. So we got out into two police cars, there might be 3 police cars, and a van, and they were tooled up, these boys, they were tooled up. You know, weapons, the full Monty, sirens blaring, me in the car with the Sweeney, zooming through London at 70, 80 miles an hour, Sunday morning. And we get to the hostel, it would be about 11:15 by this time, because don't forget I'd only left duty about 7 o'clock, rung them up, and it gone all through that story anyway. Yeah, so we get to the hostel, and who should be standing outside the hostel but the principal officer in charge of security for Wormwood Scrubs. And Chief Inspector gets out, all these guys all tooled up, all these detectives, the Sweeney. He said, we're going to search your hostel. And the principal officer said to him, I'm afraid you won't be searching the hostel today, he said, because we require in the prison service the inmates to be present when we're conducting the search. And there are no inmates in the hostel at the moment. They've all checked out. This is at 11:15 on a Sunday morning. Yeah? So the Chief Inspector said to him, who are you? And he said, I'm the principal officer in charge of security for the prison. He said, well, listen. He said, if you don't get out of the fucking way, you'll be in the back of that van and I'll get you slung in the cells. Now, piss off. And he said to me, John, will you show us the way in? Well, they'd locked the bloody place up. I said, I know how to get in. So I kicked the door in. Poof. Kicked the door in, off its hinges, smashed the door open. I said, no, I'll show you where they sleep. I took them up, all the inmates, every single inmate, 20 inmates, all of them booked out. And they'd booked out from about 10:30 when we rang up, yeah, to 11 o'clock when they'd made the telephone call to Ealing's. Now, who's done that? Who did that? That was done at the insistence of Norman Honey and the head of security. But when they searched the hostel, and they did search it, they went through all the things. They found fake police uniforms, fake ID cards, and the guy that had told me this, he went missing. He never returned. Never returned. Now, whether or not Norman Honey and the principal officer of the security knew what was going on, I doubt it. But who knows? Who bloody knows? Yeah. Anyway, so that was that. They didn't find him. He went missing. He went on the lam. He went on the run. You know, and he never got. 2 years later, I was at Strangeways, and the telephone went. In the where I was working, and somebody answered the phone and said, Mr. Sutton, yeah, it's the police, they want to speak to you. Oh, the police want to speak to me? What the hell for? I'd forgotten all about this. So the bloke on the phone said he was Detective Inspector such and such a body. He said, we've recently apprehended a prisoner who has confessed to a robbery that you had reported, that you had evidence about this. He said, and I've gone through the files and found your statement. He said, and he has admitted it. He said, but in the event that he changes his plea, because he has to take it into consideration, he said, in the event that he changes his plea, we would like you to come to London to the Old Bailey and give evidence. I said, absolutely, I will certainly do that. But if you want me there, you'll have to issue me with a witness summons through the governor, because they're not going to volunteer this. Because what happened was, after I'd done that and had searched the hostel and all the rest of it, I got called up by the governor. He said, Mr. Sutton, there's a protocol in this prison and in every prison that any incidents that you observe are reported to the governor, not to the police. He said, I'm giving you a reprimand, so I got some kind of reprimand on my reports. Whereas, on the other incident, the Chief Inspector of Police at the Sweeney asked that I be given a commendation. I didn't get a commendation. I got a disciplinary report for that. And also, the Chief Inspector said, I'm quite impressed with you, young man. He said, have you not thought about joining the police? I said, he said, because I'll guarantee you within 6 months you'll be in the Sweeney. I said, I can't. No, I couldn't, you see. I was colourblind. There you go. It's that time of day, folks. I got a request here. Somebody really wants me to sing. They want me to sing a Johnny Cash song, which is Ring of Fire, so... Are you sitting comfortably? You bloody won't be when I finish this. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, that ring of fire. Oh, the taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child. Oh, but the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, that ring of fire. I think that's enough of that, don't you? Hey, I bet you feel like jumping into one now. Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Like, subscribe, comments,